The Nexus research station hung in space like a giant metal flower. Its silver arms stretched out in all directions, each one home to different alien species from across the galaxy. Dr. Sarah Chen pressed her face against the window of her small room and watched the stars. 3 months ago, she had been just another scientist on Earth. Now, she was the first human xenobiologist to work alongside dozens of alien races. Sarah was not tall or strong like the warriors from other worlds. She had short black hair, kind, brown eyes, and hands that were always dirty from working with plants. Most aliens on the station thought humans were weak. They whispered that Earth people had only joined the Galactic Federation because they were lucky, not because they were smart. Dr. Chen, her computer spoke in a flat voice. You have a meeting with the Zentaurian research team in 1 hour. Sarah sighed. The Zentaurians were tall, blue-skinned aliens who thought they knew everything. They had been studying space plants for thousands of years before humans even learned to make fire. Yesterday, they had laughed when Sarah suggested a new way to grow food in space. Maybe today will be different, Sarah said to herself, but she did not really believe it. Down in the lower levels of the station, Zixara carried her cleaning supplies through the long metal hallways. She was small for a Catherian, barely reaching the shoulders of her warrior cousins. Her skin was green and smooth, and her large eyes could see in the dark. Back on her home planet, Catherians were known as the greatest fighters in the galaxy. But Zixara was different. You are too gentle, her family had told her. You care too much about plants and small creatures. A true Catherian thinks only of battle and honor. So they had sent her away to work on the space station. Here, she cleaned rooms and fixed broken things. The other Catherians on the station ignored her. To them, she was nothing more than a servant. Zixara had been cleaning the alien quarters for 2 months now. She had seen the rooms of proud Zentaurians with their perfect blue walls. She had cleaned the crystal caves where the Shardan lived. She had even been inside the water tanks of the fish-like aquarians, but she had never been in a human room before. The humans are the newest species to join us, the station computer had told her this morning. They are primitive creatures from a small blue planet. Do not expect much from their living spaces. As Zixara walked toward the human section of the station, she thought about what she had heard. Humans ate dead animals. They fought wars over water and land. They had almost destroyed their own planet before learning to travel in space. Other aliens said humans were loud, messy, and rude. Dr. Sarah Chen, room H247, Zixara read from her work list. Standard cleaning protocol. The human quarters looked different from other sections. The walls were painted in warm colors instead of cold metal gray. There were pictures of green, places, and blue skies. Even the air smelled different here, like flowers and fresh rain. Zixara stopped outside room H247. She pressed her ear to the door and listened. No sounds came from inside. Good. She did not want to meet the human face to face. She had heard they were strange to look at, with their pink skin and small eyes. She pressed her hand to the door scanner. A green light blinked, and the door slid, open with a soft hiss. What in the name of the 7 moons? Zixara stepped inside and froze. This was not what she had expected at all. The room was filled with light, not the harsh white light of the station, but warm, golden light that reminded her of sunrise on her home planet. But that was not the most surprising thing. Plants. There were plants everywhere. Small glass boxes lined the walls from floor to ceiling. Each box glowed with its own light and contained different types of plants. Zixara had never seen anything like it. There were tall, thin plants with blue leaves, fat, round plants covered in purple spots, tiny flowering plants that sparkled like stars. She walked deeper into the room, her mouth open in wonder. Her feet made no sound on the soft floor. The air was warm and humid, perfect for growing things. She could hear the quiet hum of machines working to keep each plant healthy. "This cannot be real," Zixara whispered. But it was real. She reached out to touch one of the glass boxes. Inside, a plant with silver leaves and white flowers grew in red soil. The writing on the box was in several languages. Zixara could read some of them. "Vixalin Moonflower," she read. "Homeworld, Vixal Prime. Status, extinct in wild." Extinct. That meant this plant no longer grew anywhere in the galaxy except right here, in this human's room. Zixara moved to the next box. "Catharian, Dream Moss, Homeworld, Cathara, Status, critically endangered." And the next? "Starlight Vine. Homeworld, New Geneva Colony. Status, lost due to terraforming accident." Her heart began to beat faster. She recognized some of these plants, not just from books or computer files, but from her own memories. In the corner of the room stood a larger glass box, almost as tall as herself. Inside grew a tree with twisted branches and golden bark. Small red fruits hung from its branches like jewels. Zixara's eyes filled with tears. It was a heartwood tree from her own planet, Catheria. She had not seen one since she was a child. The wars had destroyed most of the forests on her world. Her people had said the trees were not important compared to winning battles. But Zixara remembered sitting under the heartwood trees with her grandmother, listening to stories about the old days when Catherians lived in peace with nature. "How is this possible?" she asked the empty room. She looked at the label on the tree's box. The writing was in human language, but there were notes in Catherian script too. Someone had been studying her people's old language. Someone cared enough about Catherian plants to learn how to grow them. Zixara heard footsteps in the hallway outside. Her training as a cleaning worker told her to hide, to pretend she had seen nothing, but her feet would not move. She stood there, staring at the impossible garden around her. As the footsteps grew closer, the door opened behind her. "Oh," said a voice in clear galactic standard. "I wasn't expecting anyone to be here." Zixara turned around slowly. For the first time in her life, she was about to meet a human face to face. Zixara turned around slowly, her large eyes wide with fear. She expected to see an angry human who would shout at her for being in the wrong place. Instead, she saw a small woman with kind eyes and dirt under her fingernails. Dr. Sarah Chen stood in the doorway, holding a cup of something hot that smelled like earth flowers. She looked more surprised than angry. Her brown eyes moved from Zixara to the plants, then back to Zixara again. "I'm sorry," Sarah said in a gentle voice. "I didn't mean to scare you. You must be here to clean my room." Zixara could not speak. Her throat felt dry. She had been caught doing something wrong, but she did not know what exactly. Was it wrong to look at plants? Was it wrong to feel happy about seeing a tree from her home world? "Please don't be afraid," Sarah said. She set down her cup and took a step closer. "I'm Dr. Sarah Chen. What's your name?" "Zixara," she whispered. Then, remembering her training, she added, "I am maintenance worker Zixara. I am here to clean your room, Dr. Chen. I did not mean to touch anything." Sarah smiled. It was a warm smile, not the cold smiles that Zixara usually saw from other species. "You didn't break anything. I can see that you were just looking." She paused and looked around at her plants. "I guess my secret is out now." "Secret?" Zixara asked. Sarah's cheeks turned a little red. Humans did that when they felt embarrassed. Zixara remembered reading. "Yes, this isn't exactly legal." Zixara felt her heart jump. "Illegal?" "Not illegal like stealing or hurting someone," Sarah said quickly. "Just against station rules. I'm not supposed to have all these plants in my room. The Federation has very strict rules about moving plant life between worlds." Zixara looked around the room again. There were at least 50 different plants here, maybe more. Each one was from a different world. Each one was carefully labeled and perfectly healthy. "Why do you have them?" Zixara asked. Sarah was quiet for a long moment. She walked over to the heartwood tree from Cytheria and gently touched the glass of its container. "On my planet," Sarah began, "we have an old story about a man named Noah. When a great flood was coming to destroy the world, Noah built a big boat. He put 2 of every animal on the boat to save them. When the flood was over, the animals could start new families and fill the world again." Zixara listened carefully. Human stories were strange, but this one seemed important. "These plants," Sarah continued, "they're like Noah's animals. Their home worlds are dying or already dead. Wars, diseases, accidents. Every day another species of plant disappears forever. The Federation talks about saving them, but they move too slowly. There are too many rules, too much paperwork." Sarah turned to look at Zixara. "I couldn't just sit and watch it happen, so I started collecting seeds and samples. I grow them here, in secret, hoping that someday I can send them to safe places where they can live again." Zixara felt something strange in her chest. It was a feeling she had not felt for a long time. Hope. "The heartwood tree," she said, pointing to the golden-barked tree. "I have not seen one since I was small." "You're Cytherian," Sarah said. It wasn't a question. "I spent 3 months learning about Cytherian plant life. Your world used to have the most beautiful forests in this part of the galaxy." "Used to," Zixara repeated sadly. "Now we have only dust and metal cities." "That's why this tree is so important," Sarah said. "I got the seeds from a Cytherian trader who didn't even know what they were. He was selling them as decorations. I've been growing this tree for 2 months now. Look." She pressed a button on the side of the tree's container. The glass opened with a soft hiss. Sarah reached inside and picked one of the red fruits. "Try it," she said, offering the fruit to Zixara. Zixara stared at the fruit. She had not tasted one since she was 7 years old. Her grandmother had given her the last fruit from their family's tree before the soldiers cut it down to build a new weapons factory. She took a small bite. The taste filled her mouth with memories of home, of peace, of a time when her people cared about more than war. Tears rolled down her green cheeks. "It tastes like home," she whispered. Sarah nodded. "Every species should have the chance to taste home again." Zixara wiped her eyes. "Dr. Chen, I must tell you something. I am not just a maintenance worker. I used to be an ecological engineer on Cytheria." Sarah's eyes widened. "Used to be?" "My people did not like my ideas. I said we should stop the wars and save our forests. I said that plants were more important than new weapons. The War Council called me a traitor and sent me away." Zixara's voice became stronger. "But I never stopped caring about growing things." "Then you understand," Sarah said. "You understand why I'm doing this." "Yes," Zixara said. "But Dr. Chen, you are making mistakes." Sarah looked worried. "Mistakes?" Zixara walked over to a container holding a plant with blue spiral leaves. "This is a Zephyrian wind flower. You are growing it in yellow light, but it needs green light to make its medicine. And this one..." She moved to another container. "Andromedon crystal moss. You have it in warm air, but it only grows in cold." Sarah stared at her. "You know about all these plants?" "I studied the plant life of 47 worlds during my training," Zixara said, "before my people decided that war was more important than wisdom." Sarah was quiet for a moment. Then she smiled, the biggest smile Zixara had ever seen. "Zixara," Sarah said, "how would you like to help me save the galaxy's plants?" Zixara felt her heart beat faster. For the first time in years, someone wanted her knowledge. Someone thought her skills were valuable. "But I am just a maintenance worker," she said. "No," Sarah said firmly. "You're an ecological engineer, and I think you're exactly what this project needs." Zixara looked around the room full of rescued plants. She thought about all the worlds that had lost their green spaces to war and greed. She thought about children who would never taste the fruits of their ancestors. "Yes," she said, "I will help you." Neither of them knew that their partnership would change not just their own lives, but the future of every world in the galaxy. The next morning, Zixara did not report to her usual cleaning duties. Instead, she stood outside Dr. Chen's room at dawn, holding a small bag of tools she had not used in 2 years. Sarah opened the door before Zixara could knock. The human looked tired but excited. Her hair was messy and there was dirt on her shirt. "I've been up all night thinking," Sarah said. "There's so much work to do. Come in, come in." Zixara stepped inside. The room looked different in the morning light. Some of the plants seemed brighter, while others looked sick. "You were right about the lighting," Sarah said, pointing to the Zephyrian wind flower. "I changed it to green light 3 hours ago. And look!" The blue spiral leaves had already started to change color. They were becoming purple at the tips, which meant the plant was beginning to produce its healing medicine. "Good," Zixara said. "But we need to change the air mixture too. Windflowers need more nitrogen." Sarah nodded and made notes on her tablet. "What about the crystal moss?" Zixara walked over to the Andromedan plant. It looked sad in its warm container. "This one needs cold air and low light. Also, it must be near water. On Andromeda, crystal moss grows in caves near underground rivers." "I can build a cold container," Sarah said, "but I don't understand why some plants are so difficult to keep alive." "Every world is different," Zixara explained. "Plants grow the way they do because of their home. Hot suns, cold moons, thick air, thin air, different gravity. When we take plants away from home, we must make new homes that feel the same." Sarah smiled. "That makes perfect sense. I've been thinking like a human, but I need to think like each planet." They worked together for the next 4 hours. Zixara shared everything she remembered about plant care from dozens of worlds. Sarah took careful notes and asked smart questions. By noon, they had created new plans for every plant in the room. "Sarah," Zixara said, using the human's first name for the first time, "how many plants do you have in total?" Sarah's face became serious. "Here in my room, 53 species, but I have more." "More?" Sarah led Zixara to a wall panel. When she pressed her hand against it, the panel slid away. Behind it was a small door. "This leads to the old maintenance tunnels," Sarah explained. "No one uses them anymore because they built new ones last year. I've been using the space to grow larger plants." They crawled through the small door into a dark tunnel. Sarah turned on a light, and Zixara gasped. The tunnel stretched into the distance, and it was full of plants. Not small plants in containers, but real trees growing in soil. Vines covered the walls. Flowers bloomed in every color of the rainbow. The air was thick and sweet, like walking through a forest. 147 species, Sarah said proudly. Some from worlds that died 50 years ago. Some from worlds that are dying right now. Zixara walked slowly through the underground garden. She saw plants she had read about in school but never thought she would see with her own eyes. Ancient. Fruit trees from lost colonies. Medicinal flowers from war-torn planets. Decorative vines from worlds that had been strip-mined until nothing remained. "This is incredible," Zixara whispered. "But Sarah, this is too much work for one person." "How do you keep them all alive?" Sarah's shoulders dropped. "I don't sleep much. I spend all my free time here. I have machines to help with water and light, but I make mistakes. Last week I lost 3 species because I didn't understand their growing cycles." "And you do this alone?" "I have to. The Federation's Conservation Council moves too slowly. They have meetings about meetings. They write reports about why they need to write more reports. Meanwhile, entire ecosystems disappear." Zixara touched the bark of a silver tree. It was from Nexus 7, a mining world where all the forests had been cut down for fuel. "How many worlds are in danger right now?" she asked. Sarah pulled out her tablet and showed Zixara a list. 43 worlds will lose most of their plant life in the next 5 years. 15 worlds are at critical risk right now. 3 worlds... Sarah's voice became quiet. 3 worlds have less than 1 year left before total ecological collapse. Zixara felt cold. 1 year? Kepler 442b is suffering from a fast-spreading plant disease. The government there won't let outside scientists help because they're afraid the disease will spread to other worlds. Gliese 667c is being terraformed by a mining company. They're changing the atmosphere so quickly that native plants can't adapt. And Wolf 359b... What about Wolf 359b? Civil war. They're using chemical weapons that kill all plant life. The war has been going on for 6 months. In another 6 months, there will be nothing left to save. Zixara stared at the list. Each name represented billions of plants, thousands of species, entire worlds of green life that would be gone forever. "The Federation Council knows about this?" she asked. "They know. They've scheduled a meeting to discuss it next year." "Next year?" Zixara's voice rose with anger. "These worlds will be dead by then." "That's why I can't wait for them," Sarah said. "That's why I break the rules. Someone has to act now." Zixara was quiet for a long time. She thought about her own world, Cytheria, and how her people had chosen war over saving their forests. She thought about all the other worlds making the saw. Same choice. "Sarah," she said finally, "2 people cannot save 43 worlds." Sarah nodded sadly. "I know. I can only save samples, seeds, small pieces. Maybe someday, when the wars end or the mining stops, we can replant them. But most of these species will still be lost forever." "No," Zixara said. "I mean, we need more people." Sarah looked at her with surprise. "More people?" "I know others who care about plants. Not many, but some. There is Flurnell, a Florian who works in the station's air recycling system. His people are plant-based life forms. He understands growing things better than anyone. There is also Crix, a Shardan who works with computers. She helped me once when I was trying to research earth chemistry for Cytherian plants." Sarah's eyes lit up. "Do you think they would help us?" "If we explain the situation, yes. Flurnell's home world has problems with soil disease. Crix's people live in crystal formations, but they depend on certain mosses for their food. They both understand what it means to lose plant life." "But can we trust them?" Sarah asked. "If the station commanders find out what we're doing..." Zixara thought about the heartwood tree in Sarah's room. She thought about the taste of home, the feeling of hope she had found again. "Sarah, my people have a saying, a single tree cannot make a forest, but a forest can grow from a single seed. You are the seed. I am the first tree to grow. Now we need to plant more seeds." Sarah smiled. "Are you saying what I think you're saying?" "I am saying we start a revolution," Zixara said. "A quiet revolution. We find others who care more about life than rules. We save what we can, and we save it together." Sarah held out her hand in the human gesture of friendship. Zixara took it. "Partners?" Sarah asked. "Partners," Zixara agreed. Neither of them noticed the small security camera hidden in the tunnel ceiling, or the red recording light that had been blinking for the past 10 minutes. 2 weeks later, Zixara walked through the station's lower levels carrying a bucket of cleaning supplies. To anyone watching, she looked like any other maintenance worker doing her daily duties. But hidden under her cleaning cloths were seed, packets from 12 different worlds. She stopped at a service panel and looked around carefully. The hallway was empty. She opened the panel and slipped inside, into the network of tunnels that Sarah had shown her. The underground garden had grown. What started as Sarah's secret project was now something much bigger. "Zixara! "Over here!" called a voice that sounded like wind blowing through leaves. Flurnell stood near a group of flowering vines, his green skin glowing softly in the artificial sunlight. The Florian was tall and thin, with branches instead of arms and roots instead of feet. His people were half plant, half animal, and he understood growing things better than anyone on the station. "How are the Kepler samples doing?" Zixara asked, setting down her bucket. "Very well," Flurnell replied, his voice rustling with happiness. "The disease that is killing plants on Kepler 442b cannot survive in our modified air mixture. If we can grow enough healthy plants here, we might be able to send disease-resistant seeds back to their world." Across the tunnel, Crix looked up from a computer terminal. The Chardin was made of living crystal, and her body sparkled in the grow lights. Her people lived on worlds of stone and crystal, but they depended on special mosses for food. "The atmospheric data from Wolf 359b just came in," Crix said, her voice sounding like music played on crystal chimes. "The chemical weapons are spreading, faster than predicted. We have 4 months, not 6. Sarah emerged from behind a large tree, soil covering her hands and clothes. In the past 2 weeks, she had barely slept. The human was determined to save as many species as possible. 4 months, Sarah repeated. "That's not enough time to grow seeds to maturity, but maybe we can save genetic samples for future planting." "I may have a solution," said a new voice. Everyone turned to see Veltar, a Voxian engineer who had joined their group 3 days ago. His people were experts at building things, and his 4 arms could work on multiple projects at once. "What kind of solution?" Sarah asked. Veltar activated a holographic display. It showed the design for a spaceship, but not like any ship they had seen before. "I call it an Orc ship," Veltar explained. "It would be a mobile garden. We could fly it to dying worlds, collect plants and seeds quickly, then bring them back here to safety." Zixara studied the design. The ship was beautiful. It had special chambers for different types of plants, systems to create any kind of atmosphere, and laboratories for studying and growing rescued species. "This is amazing," Sarah said. "But how would we build something like this? And where would we get permission to visit restricted worlds?" "We don't ask for permission," Crix said quietly. "We build the ship in secret, just like this garden." "That would be very dangerous," Flurnell pointed out. "If the Federation Council discovered we were visiting worlds without authorization, they would arrest us all," Veltar finished. "But if we do nothing, 43 worlds will lose their plant life forever." Sarah looked around at her friends. A month ago, she had been working alone. Now she had allies from 5 different species, all willing to risk their careers and freedom to save plants they had never seen from worlds they had never visited. "Where would we build this ship?" she asked. "I know a place," Zixara said. "Cargo Bay 7 is being renovated. The work was supposed to be finished last month, but they found structural problems. It will be empty for at least 3 more months." "Perfect," Veltar said. "I can get the materials we need through my engineering connections. If anyone asks, I'll say I'm working on improvements to the station's life support systems." "What about the genetic storage equipment?" Crix asked. "We'll need advanced laboratory tools to preserve plant DNA." "Leave that to me," said a voice from the tunnel entrance. They all turned to see Zaranin, an Aquarian scientist who worked in the station's medical bay. Her blue, fish-like body was covered in scales that changed color when she was excited, and right now, they were bright silver. "I've been listening to your conversations for the past week," Zaranin said. "My people's oceans are becoming acidic. From pollution. We're losing our sea plants too. I want to help." Sarah felt a warm feeling in her chest. More allies meant more hope. "We're creating something bigger than just a rescue mission," she realized out loud. "We're building a network of people who care more about life then rules. Over the next month, their secret network grew. Maintenance workers smuggled materials through service tunnels. Scientists shared research data without official permission. Engineers worked on the Ark ship during their off-duty hours. Zixara used her cleaning duties to plant small gardens in forgotten corners of the station. Behind air recyclers, she grew medicinal herbs from distant worlds. In storage rooms that hadn't been used for years, she cultivated flowering plants that existed nowhere else in the galaxy. But they were not as careful as they should have been. Station Commander Thulvok sat in his office studying security reports on his desk. The Zentaurian was old and experienced, with blue skin and silver eyes that missed nothing. For weeks, he had been noticing small oddities around the station. Unusual power consumption in unused areas, materials disappearing from storage, maintenance, workers accessing areas outside their normal duties, and strange readings from atmospheric sensors in sections that should have been empty. "Computer," he said in his deep voice, "show me security footage from Cargo Bay 7 for the past 2 weeks." The wall screen filled with images of Veltar and other engineers working on what looked like a spaceship. But this was not an official Federation project. Thulvok had checked all the construction records. "Show me maintenance records for Zixara, Kytherian worker designation 4471. The computer displayed a map showing everywhere Zixara had been in the past month. She had visited far too many areas for a simple cleaning worker. "Show me power. Consumption data for unused sections of the station." The numbers confirmed his suspicions. Someone was using massive amounts of energy in areas that were supposed to be empty. Thulvok leaned back in his chair. He had been a military commander before becoming a station administrator. He knew the signs of a secret operation. "Computer, prepare security teams for immediate deployment. Authorization Thulvok Alpha 77. "Security teams prepared, Commander. What is the target?" Thulvok stood up and straightened his uniform. He had spent 30 years enforcing Federation law. He would not stop now, even if he felt a small amount of respect for what these people were trying to do. "All locations. Seal the maintenance. Tunnels. Secure Cargo Bay 7. Arrest anyone found in unauthorized areas." "Yes, Commander. Initiating security lockdown in 5 minutes." In the underground garden, Sarah was carefully transplanting seedlings when all the lights suddenly turned red. An alarm began to sound throughout the station. "Security alert," announced the station computer. "All personnel return to authorized areas immediately. Unauthorized activities will result in arrest." Sarah looked at her friends. They all knew what this meant. "They found us," Zixara said quietly. Heavy footsteps echoed through the tunnels. Security guards were coming. Their time had run out. The footsteps grew louder. Sarah looked around at her friends, Zixara, Flurnell, Crix, Veltar, and Zaranin. Each one had risked everything to help save plants from dying worlds. Now they would all be arrested together. "We should run," Veltar whispered, his forearms shaking with fear. "Where?" Crix asked, her crystal body flickering with nervous light. "They have sealed all the tunnels." Sarah took a deep breath. "No, we don't run. We face this together." "But Sarah," Zixara said, "they will send us away from the station. They will end our project. All these plants will die." "Maybe," Sarah said, "but running won't save them either. Sometimes the only choice is to stand up for what's right, even when it's scary." The tunnel filled with bright lights. 6 security guards in blue uniforms appeared, led by a tall Zentaurian with silver eyes. Sarah recognized him from station meetings. Commander Thulvok, the station's highest authority. "Dr. Sarah Chen," Commander Thulvok said in his deep voice. "You and your associates are under arrest for violation of Federation Regulations 47A through 23C. You will come with us immediately." "Wait," Sarah said, stepping forward. "Before you arrest us, let me show you something." "Dr. Chen, You are not in a position to make requests. Commander, please, give me 5 minutes. If you still want to arrest us after that, we'll come quietly. Thulvak studied her face. Sarah looked tired but determined. Her hands were dirty from working with plants, and her clothes were covered in soil. She did not look like a dangerous criminal. 5 minutes, he said finally. Sarah walked over to a wall covered in flowering vines. These are harmony blossoms from Kepler 442b. 3 months ago, a disease started killing all plant life on that world. The government asked the Federation for help. She pulled out her tablet and showed him official documents. The Federation Conservation Council scheduled their first meeting about Kepler 442b for next year. By then, every plant on the planet will be dead. Thulvak looked at the documents. They were real Federation communications. That's one world, Sarah continued, walking to another plant. This is crystal grass from Gliesa 6667C. A mining company is changing the atmosphere so fast that native plants can't survive. The Federation gave them permission because the company pays high taxes. She moved to a third plant, this one with silver leaves and sad-looking flowers. Moonlight sage from Wolf 359b. Chemical weapons from their civil war are poisoning the soil. In 4 months, nothing will grow there again. Sarah turned to face the commander. 43 worlds, Commander. 43 worlds are losing their plant life right now. The Federation knows about all of them. But meetings and paperwork and regulations are more important than saving lives. These are Federation decisions, Thulvak said. You cannot simply ignore the law. Commander, Zixara stepped forward. May I speak? Thulvak nodded. I am from Kytheria. My people chose war over saving our forests. We said that victory was more important than trees. Now my world is dust and metal. I will never again see the green places of my childhood. Her voice became stronger. Dr. Chen showed me that some things are more important than following orders. She taught me that saving life is always right, even when the rules say it's wrong. Flurnell rustled forward, his branch arms reaching toward the commander. My people are part plant, part animal. We understand that all life is connected. When plants die, everything dies. Dr. Chen is trying to save the future itself. Crix's crystal body chimed like bells. My world is made of stone, but we depend on special mosses for food. Those mosses are dying from pollution. Without Dr. Chen's help, my people will starve. Veltar spoke next, his forearms gesturing at the underground garden. I have built weapons for the Federation. I have built ships for war. This is the first time I have built something to create life instead of destroy it. Finally, Zaranin stepped forward, her scales shifting to deep blue. My oceans are dying from acid. My people's children may never see the sea plants that we grew up with. Dr. Chen gave us hope that something could be saved. Commander Thulvak looked around the tunnel. Hundreds of plants from dozens of worlds grew in the artificial sunlight. Each one was carefully labeled and perfectly healthy. The air smelled like flowers and fresh earth. You have broken 17 different Federation regulations, he said slowly. Yes, Sarah said. We have. You have used station resources without authorization. Yes. You have created unauthorized biological samples. Yes. You have planned to visit restricted worlds without permission. Sarah met his silver eyes. Yes, Commander. We have done all of these things. Because while the Federation talks, entire worlds are dying. Because someone needs to act when action is needed. Because saving life is more important than following rules that were written for a different time. Thulvak was quiet for a long moment. He walked slowly through the garden, looking at plants from worlds he had never seen. He stopped at a small tree with golden bark and red fruit. What is this one? He asked. Heartwood tree from Kytheria, Zixara answered. The last one I have seen in 3 years. The commander reached out and gently touched one of the red fruits. I have heard of these. They were supposed to be extinct. They are extinct on Kytheria, Zixara said sadly. This may be the last heartwood tree in the galaxy. Thulvak turned to look at the group of friends from different worlds, all working together to save something beautiful. Security Team Alpha, he said into his communication device. Sarah felt her heart sink. This was it. They would be arrested. Yes. Commander, came the reply. Stand down. Return to normal duties. Sir, what about the arrests? There will be no arrests today. Sarah stared at him in shock. Commander, Thulvak straightened his uniform and looked at each of them. Dr. Chen, you and your team will report to my office tomorrow morning at 800 hours. To be arrested? Veltar asked nervously. To receive official authorization for Project Conservation Arc, Thulvak said. The Federation needs people who act when action is needed. You will have access to proper laboratories, official funding, and permission to visit any world that requires plant rescue operations. Sarah felt tears of joy running down her face. Really? Really. But there are conditions. Your operations must be properly documented. You will work with Federation scientists. And Dr. Chen, he looked directly at Sarah. You will be the project director. And Zixara will be chief ecological consultant, Sarah said quickly. Of course. Each of your team members will have official positions appropriate to their skills. 6 months later, the conservation Arc ship New Eden prepared for its 15th rescue mission. Sarah stood on the bridge, watching as they approached Wolf 359b. The Civil War had ended, and the planet's government had asked for help restoring. Their poisoned soil, Zixara worked at the science station, analyzing atmospheric data. The air is clearing faster than expected, she reported. We can begin planting disease-resistant seeds within the week. Around the galaxy, similar ships were visiting other worlds. The Federation had created an entire fleet of Arc ships, each one crewed by teams from different species working together. In her personal quarters, Sarah kept a small glass container. Inside grew a single heartwood tree with golden bark and red fruit. It was not the same tree from her old room. That one had been planted in the first new forest on restored Cytheria. This tree was grown from seeds of the original, and it would someday be planted somewhere else that needed hope. Sarah smiled as she remembered the day a small Cytherian maintenance worker had walked into her room unexpectedly. Zixara had thought she was just there to clean. Instead, she had helped save the galaxy. Sometimes the most important meetings happen by accident. Sometimes the people who seem least important turn out to be exactly what the universe needs, and sometimes breaking the rules is the most right thing you can do.